Hello, I'm Esther Githu-Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Senior officials from Ukraine and the United States, including America's top diplomat, have ended high-stakes meeting in Saudi Arabia Tuesday on how to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Rising unrest in South Sudan sparks international concern, with the United Nations Commission on Human Rights warning that violence threatens to undo years of progress. And U.S. health officials have banned red dye number 3 from American foods after studies linked the red color additive to cancer in male laboratory rats. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. A high-stakes meeting between senior officials from Ukraine and the United States, including America's top diplomat, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, on how to end Russia's war in Ukraine is happening Tuesday in Saudi Arabia. The meeting came hours after Russian air defenses shot down over 300 Ukrainian drones over 10 regions in Russia overnight. Russian officials say at least 3 people were killed and 18 were injured, including 3 children in the attack. The Ukrainian Air Force says Russia launched over 100 drones and a ballistic missile on its territory on Tuesday. We get more on the peace negotiations from VOA's Nike Ching, who is traveling with the U.S. Secretary of State.
U.S. and Ukrainian officials kicked off talks Tuesday in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, as President Donald Trump pushes to secure a peace deal ending the Russian-Ukraine war. Andrew Yermak, chief of staff to Ukrainian President Zelensky, told reporters that Ukraine is ready to do everything to achieve peace. Ukraine's proposal includes suspending long-range missile strikes and a ceasefire in the Black Sea. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has told reporters the U.S. hopes to resolve the pause in aid to Ukraine during Tuesday's talks. Nike Chin, VOA News, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Cyclone Jude crashed through Mozambique Monday, causing widespread flooding, damage to infrastructure, leaving people homeless and without power. Jude made landfall in the early hours of the morning, and many locals were shocked by its severity.
This rain doesn't stop falling. It started around 1 a.m. And they are saying it's going to rain for 24 hours, and the wind and thunder don't stop. The backyard walls and gates have fallen down. We can't go to the market. There is a lot of water. We are suffering a lot. We slept a little normally, but we didn't sleep well.
The United Nations Children's Fund is working alongside the government to distribute emergency aid kits and other forms of help to those affected. Ugandan special forces are in the South Sudanese capital as they try to protect the fragile government of President Salva Kiir as a tense rivalry with his deputy Riek Machar threatens to plunge the East African nation into another civil war. Major General Felix Kulaije, a spokesperson for the Ugandan military, says Ugandan forces are in Juba with permission from the government and to, quote, support the government of South Sudan against a possible rebel advance on the city. South Sudan has not commented on whether or not Ugandan forces are in Juba. For more insight on the rising unrest in South Sudan, VOA's Paul Ndiho spoke to Reith Tang, a member of South Sudan's National Legislative Assembly and deputy chairperson of the National Committee on Foreign Relations, SPLM-IO.
The current situation in Juba, Paul, is very tense. There is a lot of tension in town, and a lot of senior government officials from the SPLM-IO have been arrested, including the Minister of Petroleum, the head of the military of the SPLM-IO, and a number of people were arrested. And the house that belonged to the first Vice President, Dr. Machar, has been sieged for the last few days, and no movement, nobody's allowed to go inside his compound. So things are really getting into a wrong direction. The problem is a lack of political will from the government. I would say that what brings all this crisis is because government does not want to implement the peace agreement, specifically the security arrangement that can allow the country to have a national army by unifying all the forces. The government escalated the situation by sending more troops to Nasser town, which has been a spot where the civilian have been continuously fighting with the military, and this is in violation to the peace agreement, the security arrangement, because we have mechanisms set up to deploy those armed forces. We have the unified force. Some of them were graduated, and the government refused to give them arm and weapon, and then instead they use militia that belong to certain tribe and taking them to Nasser.
Just for the record, you are a member of SPLM-IO.
Correct. I am a member of the SPLM-IO. I'm the deputy chairperson on the National Committee for Foreign Relations.
I've also listened to people from the government who said that SPLM-IO has sinister motives. They're not as genuine as they claim to be. They are trying to do some things that undermine the current peace arrangements that are there. How do you respond to that?
That is unfounded, because as we speak, SPLM-IO have no power in Juba. You can see right now, because our minister has been arrested and we can't do anything about it. And because the national security is aligned to the president. And for anyone to say that the SPLM-IO that has his leader, the leader in Juba, for example, put in one place in the office and the resident. He can't go anywhere. He can't go to the church. He can't even attend wedding, and he cannot even go for medical attention. For the last 5 years, Dr. Riek has been sick, and he was not allowed to go outside the country. So anyone who is saying the SPLM-IO have agenda, I think he has something that they want to use so that they can do what they want to do.
As a member of SPLM-IO, if you had an opportunity to talk to President Salva Kiir, what would you tell him?
I would tell the president that he has to live up to his word, because he's been saying several times that he does not want to return the country back to war. And I wish he have to live up to his word and to show to the people of South Sudan that he's not taking this country back to war, because he has the power to do so.
Riek Tang is a member of South Sudan's National Legislative Assembly and Deputy Chairperson of the National Committee on Foreign Relations, SPLM-IO. U.S. President Donald Trump is signaling a major change in how America will support growth in key domestic industries such as semiconductors. VOA's Michelle Quinn has the story.
In his speech to Congress this week, President Donald Trump criticized something called the CHIPS Act.
Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing.
Trump is talking about the nearly $53 billion in subsidies for U.S. semiconductor manufacturing and research that former President Joe Biden signed into law. Congress passed the act in 2022, concerned by U.S. reliance on semiconductors made overseas. Chips power a range of consumer products, such as cars and iPhones. U.S. companies, in particular, rely on the advanced chips made by the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. The goal of the CHIPS Act subsidies has been to boost U.S. semiconductor production and encourage firms to build fabrication plants in the U.S. TSMC has been awarded $6.6 billion and has committed to investing $65 billion to build 3 factories in Arizona. Since starting his second term in office, Trump has heralded tariffs to boost key domestic industries. He has threatened tariffs on imported chips and has argued that the CHIPS Act hasn't delivered.
They've got nothing but money, Joe. They didn't need money. They needed an incentive, and the incentive is going to be they're not going to want to pay a 25, 50, or even 100% tax.
Trump announced Monday that TSMC agreed to spend an additional $100 billion over the next 4 years to build new U.S. facilities for making the firm's higher-end chips used for artificial intelligence and smartphones.
And we're not giving them any money.
Trump said Congress should get rid of the CHIPS Act. Any money remaining should be used to reduce debt, he said. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
Hardliners in Israel are welcoming U.S. President Donald Trump's plan for the future of Gaza, which calls for many of Gaza's 2.3 million Palestinians to leave the enclave. They say encouraging immigration does not violate international law. Palestinians have rejected the plan. Linda Gradstein has more from Jerusalem.
The far-right Land of Israel caucus in the Knesset met Sunday in a special session to endorse U.S. President Donald Trump's plan for relocating 2.3 million Palestinians out of Gaza. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich says he is establishing a migration authority within the Defense Ministry to encourage Palestinians to leave Gaza.
Every shekel we will invest in encouraging migration will cost us less than fighting again and again. The budget will not be an obstacle to this plan. This is not just another plan. It is a potential for historic change in the Middle East and Israel.
Knesset member Simcha Rothman says this relocation plan is more realistic than the one recently proposed by Egypt and the Arab League, which would allow the Palestinian Authority to run Gaza without disarming the U.S.-designated terrorist group Hamas.
People will say, let's rehabilitate Hamas. Let's give Hamas all the opportunity to rebuild its forces. How come this is a realistic solution? It's not. It's dangerous to Gaza, it's dangerous to Gazans, and it's dangerous to the peace of this area.
Far-right legal scholars at the Land of Israel caucus meeting say that encouraging emigration from a war zone is not a violation of international law.
We know that in time of war, there are refugees. From Afghanistan, millions of refugees. From the war in Syria, millions of refugees. From the war in Ukraine, millions of refugees. None of this is called ethnic cleansing. Now, the creation of such refugees cannot be done on purpose, but it need not be specifically prevented as a consequence of war.
Representatives of Israeli liberal organizations disagree.
This is not voluntary removal of people, it's displacement or transfer of population. It's a war crime and it's immoral. If you make people's life miserable and then you say they want to leave the place, it's not that they voluntarily go out.
Many at the Knesset caucus called for Israel to reestablish the 21 Jewish settlements in the Gaza Strip, which were evacuated in 2005 when Israel unilaterally withdrew from the territory.
The people of Israel are ready to fight, are ready to carry out President Trump's idea of immigration of the Gazans. At the same time, the people of Israel are ready and willing to fulfill the goal of Zionism to settle the entire Gaza with Jewish settlers.
While the prospect of rebuilding Jewish settlements in Gaza seems unlikely, most Israelis agree that Hamas should have no role in its future, and some believe the best way to ensure that is to get most Palestinians to leave Gaza. Linda Gradstein, VOA News, Jerusalem.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, in our health report, officials sound the alarm on toxic food ingredients. Stay with us.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, corruption is plaguing many African countries, and it impacts every aspect of citizens' lives. Each year, the Corruption Perception Index presents an overview of how countries worldwide are doing. In 2024, Sub-Saharan Africa nations scored the lowest, but there are a few countries that made remarkable progress. Join me, Vincent Makori, for an in-depth discussion on the cost of corruption in Africa.
In other news, only 7 countries met World Health Organization air quality standards last year, according to newly released data. IQ Air, a Swiss air quality monitoring firm, says only Australia, New Zealand, the Bahamas, Barbados, Grenada, Estonia and Iceland made the grade. Chad and Bangladesh were the world's most polluted countries in 2024, with average smog levels more than 15 times higher than WHO guidelines. Sight Savers International, a British non-governmental agency for the disabled, citing World Bank data, says the world could gain trillions annually in gross domestic product if women were employed at the same rate as men. Failure to close gender employment gaps reduces a country's economic growth by 20% on average, according to the data. And the Democratic Republic of Congo has approached the United States to strike a Ukraine-like minerals deal. Experts say the U.S. could offer a viable alternative to Congo and check China's influence while ensuring access to critical minerals for Washington. Experts, however, caution that a mineral agreement is also fraught with challenges. For the first time in nearly 10 years, the Titans Cup, an all-Ukrainian wheelchair basketball tournament, was held recently. The competition took place in February and brought together teams from across the country. Holding such an event during wartime is a milestone for Ukrainian adaptive sports. Omelyan Olshud-Liak has the story.
When Pavlo Kozak enters this sports arena in his wheelchair, he's a star. He's also the organizer of the Titans Cup wheelchair basketball tournament, an all-Ukraine affair. 6 teams are gathered here today, about 50 athletes from Kharkiv, Odessa, Kyiv and Lviv. Kozak says organizing this event is a lot more challenging than planning a similar one for athletes without disabilities.
It took us a long time just to find a hotel that could accommodate so many wheelchair users. The problems start with bathrooms. Most have shower enclosures. No matter which hotel you choose, I bet you won't find more than 2 fully accessible rooms in the entire place.
Dmytro Bazilevsky is a coach and former player for Ukraine's national basketball team. He has put together a team of wounded soldiers recovering from severe injuries at Kyiv's Titanovy Rehabilitation Center.
If practice starts at 9 a.m., they need to wake up by 7, maybe even 6:30 if they live on the opposite side of the city. The ones who push themselves, those are the guys who stay. Right now, we have 7 players, and we're adding more.
This year's champions, the Kharkiv Basket, defeated Pavlo Kozak's team in the final. But the morning after the tournament, Kozak is already back at work. When he's not drawing up plays during a game, Kozak is mentoring and training at the Unbroken Rehabilitation Center in Lviv.
I became the first wheelchair-bound student to enroll in my university's full-time program. At some point, I realized it's better to move well on wheels than to struggle on foot.
And although his team lost in the final, for Kozak, organizing the Titans Cup national wheelchair basketball tournament during wartime. Omelyan Olshud-Liak, VOA News, Lviv, Ukraine.
It's time for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with the latest on the red dye number 3. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. U.S. health officials have banned red dye number 3 from American foods used in certain food products such as candy, cakes, frozen desserts, and frostings. As VOA's Dora Mekua reports, studies have linked the bright red color additive to cancer in male laboratory rats. Take a look.
Red dye number 3 gives its vibrant color to a variety of products, many of which appeal to children, like candy, sprinkles, cakes with fun colors, fruit-inspired treats. It's also found in medications. Red 3 is derived from petroleum. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, approved its use in food in 1969.
70% of our grocery stores are ultra-processed foods. Most of them, if not all of them, contain one of the 9 synthetic food dyes.
Last month, the FDA banned the coloring in all food and drugs. Studies show that the substance causes cancer in male lab rats.
These things can actually cause damage. These things are synthetic, meaning they're xenobiotics, meaning they're foreign to the body, meaning they'll stimulate inflammation, and inflammation is intimately tied to carcinogenesis,
which is the start of cancer formation. Europe banned Red 3 from foods in 1994. The additive was banned in U.S. cosmetics in 1990. The food ban in America was delayed in part by industry pressure, according to Hofseth.
A lot of lobbyists pushing back against regulations against synthetic food dyes, which is a big, big industry.
The FDA ban mandates that manufacturers reformulate food without Red 3, starting in January 2027, and ingested drugs a year later.
We have the opportunity to replace it with things that likely have no harmful effects, and that's the hope. A great reformulation, I hope, is a great reformulation because it reimagines products from the ground up.
That means getting used to new ways to inject color into food, like using natural food coloring, or getting used to less colorful aisles in the grocery store.
Certain things might look a little different, and they might look actually how they're probably supposed to look, might taste in cases a little bit different.
In some cases, Red 3 might be replaced by Red 40, another synthetic food dye. In Europe, foods containing Red 40 currently require a warning label that the product may cause hyperactivity in children. Dora McQuarr, VOA News, Washington.
Health experts are raising concerns about the toxic ingredients in commonly consumed foods. To dive deeper into the issue, joining me today is Dr. Shondell Knights, a naturopathic doctor and founder of Nirvana Holistic Medicine. Hello, Dr. Knights. Hello. I mean, this is concerning. All these colors. This is a random packaging that I found for candy. I read here red 40, yellow 5, blue, all these. What is your reaction, first of all, to the banning of red number 3 and what all this means for our health?
It's about time. That is my reaction. You know, United States is one of the few places that still allows so many different varieties of colors that we don't need in our food. There was a period of time where we used beetroots to actually dye red, so it's incredibly hard for the body to remove some of these chemicals, and not just dyes, but things like forever chemicals, moving them out of the body because they cause so many things. Cancer's just the top of the iceberg, hormone disruptors. So.
And how can we be an educated consumer? What advice would you give people to help identify so that they can avoid those harmful toxic ingredients?
Read the back of the package. Your first 3 ingredients should be food. They should be things that are incorporated in foods. If you cannot read the name, you really shouldn't purchase the product because your body also does not understand the thing that you're putting in. If you can't read it and understand it, your body doesn't either.
So when we consume all this, and I think one of the very critical issues is the fact that even children have access to this. Yeah. Candies, ice cream, and everything else. So what are some of the basic steps that people can take to detox once they become aware of this, right? You've already consumed all this food. Yeah. What is the first step you can take?
Honestly, so you need to make sure your body's natural processes of detoxification are active. So make sure you're having bowel movements twice a day. You're drinking enough water, you're urinating. You are sweating. So many people don't like to sweat, but that is one of the most effective ways to move toxins out of your body and your liver health. There are a lot of herbs and supplements, but if you do nothing else, go out and sweat.
Sweating, so you releases the toxins.
The toxins, and we can test the sweat on your body and actually see that you're releasing things like, forever chemicals. Getting into a sauna activates that sweating. Yeah.
You talked about forever chemicals. What are there and where can we find them?
Everywhere. Unfortunately, PFAS, all of these things, those were banned in 2022, 23, but you'll find them on non-stick materials, clothing, candy wrappers, One of my favorite ones is popcorn. You know, that microwavable bag of popcorn.
Yes,
if you see
those.
that shiny coating on any packaging in food, you best believe that it has some kind of forever chemical on it.
And earlier when we were talking, you talked about plastic water bottles.
Yeah.
This is something we use every day,
BPA,
all of us.
Right? BPA got the thing. A lot of people were now making products that says BPA free, but that just means they switched to a different type of BPA. So there's now BPA-F, but they're all a part of the same chemical family, and they do the same things to the body. So water bottles, honestly, you just need to switch to glass, because all of the BPAs this and PBA that, it's just whack-a-mole. You're calling a different name for the same process in the body. The body does not recognize BPA, and it takes a lot to detox it out of your system.
So what do we do next then? We stop eating candies and ice cream, or are we all gonna die?
No, so the first thing you need to do is switch to bottled waters in glass bottles. You need water filters for your home. Charcoal filters are a great way to go. That'll filter out the water you use to cook and shower with. And then you need to make sure, like I said, activate that superpower in your body to detox. So avoid as much as you can. Look for those things. Look at the back of the package. If you're a candy wrapper, well, first of all, candy, but if it's wrapped in something glossy, it's likely wrapped with one of those chemicals. All of the stain retardant and, you know, non-stick, just eliminate it. It's bringing all of those forever chemicals. The reason it's non-stick is because it's a forever chemical. Get rid of it.
We have to leave it there. Dr. Knights, thanks for all these informative tips. Dr. Knights, thank you very much. Dr. Shondell Knights is a naturopathic doctor and founder of Nirvana Holistic Medicine. And that's our health report for today. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Mudus every Tuesday for her health reports right here. And that's our show for today. We'll see you back tomorrow. Thank you for watching.